The U.S. Air Force and Northrop Grumman have released the first new video of the B-21 Raider bomber in nearly 4 years. The video, designed to show the plane in hangars at airbases across the country, shows a few more details of the stealthy bomber. According to aviation experts, the new plane looks like the B-2 bomber, with some key differences. The B-21 Raider is the first new Air Force bomber since 1988, the year the B-2A Spirit was unveiled. Named after Doolittle's Raiders, the force of B-25 Mitchell bombers that bombed Tokyo in the spring of 1942, the B-21 is designed to overcome modern air defense threats, including such systems as the Russian S-400 surface-to-air missile system and Chinese J-20 stealth fighter to penetrate enemy airspace. The B-21 will be capable of carrying precision-guided conventional missions and nuclear weapons. The B-21 will be a flying wing design, a specialty of Northrop Grumman's since the end of World War II. The blending of the fuselage and wing, combined with the lack of horizontal and vertical stabilizers in the rear, is generally thought of as the best shape possible to avoid enemy radars from all directions. A bomber penetrating deeply into enemy territory will likely have radar waves bouncing off it from multiple angles, making all-around stealth a necessity. The trend for the B-21 is a refinement of the B-2A's original flying wing shape. The leading-edge shape of the B-21 is simpler than the B-2A's sawtooth trailing edge. The cleaner, simpler trailing edge is probably how the original stealth bomber was supposed to look, but in the 1980s, a last-minute demand by the Air Force that the Spirit be capable of low-altitude flight necessitated an expensive design change. As a result, per Aviation Week's analysts, the plane is likely optimized for medium and high-altitude flights. Experts believe the B-21 will be smaller than the B-2A, running about two-thirds the size and weight of the older bomber. This is reflected in the fact that the B-21 rendering features fewer main landing gear wheels. The aircraft simply needs fewer landing wheels to support a lighter airplane. Aviation Week points out that the rendering displays a shorter fuselage and air inlets farther forward than the older bomber. This is all to increase internal volume for crew life support, fuel, sensors, and weapons. As a stealthy airplane, the B-21 must store all weapons, sensors, fuel, and other items internally, so space is at a premium. The Air Force plans to buy at least 100 B-21 Raiders, though ideally, the service would like 200 or more. How the B-21 Raider win the war against China in the South China Sea. The U.S. Navy is working to counter China in the Pacific, but it could be the Air Force's B-21 Raider that really shakes things up. In recent years, the United States Navy has dramatically increased the frequency of freedom of navigation operations in the South China Sea. This increase in Pacific activity can be directly attributed to China's aggressive behavior throughout the region, working to enforce their illegal claims of sovereignty over the heavily trafficked portion of the ocean. The South China Sea, a stretch of ocean that lies between Vietnam and the Philippines, is subject to numerous overlapping claims of ownership, many of which are backed by international law and commonly accepted norms. That is, except for China's claim, which extends thousands of miles beyond the traditionally recognized economic exclusion zones each nation can claim within 200 miles of their coast, and is bolstered by both capturing and creating new islands in the region. South China Sea freedom of navigation operations are voyages of military vessels through stretches of ocean that China considers their property, but that the rest of the world recognizes as international waters. The United States and a number of other nations conduct these operations specifically to reinforce international norms, and to physically represent a dismissal of China's illegal claims. However, as tensions between China and other global powers continues to mount, emerging hypersonic technologies promise to give China a seemingly indefensible advantage. And that's where the Air Force just might save the day. Their newest bomber, the Northrop Grumman B-21 Raider, is expected to enter service in the mid-2020s and promises to be the most advanced stealth bomber ever built. Northrop Grumman has done an excellent job of keeping secrets associated with the B-21, but some things are fairly safe to assume. This new bomber will be able to avoid detection like no bomber ever has before it. It will have global strike capabilities, and it would likely lead the way in a high-end conflict against a nation like China.